Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Southwest North Carolina FCA Coaches Corner. We are delighted with our guest tonight, but before we introduce him and get to talking a little bit, it was Billy Graham that said, one coach can impact more young people in 1 year than most of us will in our entire lifetime. At FCA, we believe the two most important words on any campus, NFL field, Major League Baseball, rec league, YMCA, the two most powerful words are Coach said. And at Polk County High School, Coach Bruce Ollis, the head football coach, Coach said means something special down there because he used to be one of my most fierce rivals. But since I've been serving that school with FCA, I've come to respect him even more of how he treats the kids in the community. And he's just a man of God coaching football. And Coach Ollis, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Great to be here, BJ. It's always fun to talk to you, regardless if it's on YouTube or on the couch in the lobby of the field house.
Oh, no doubt. Hey, before we get going, I just want you to talk about your family. You've got an amazing family, Coach, and I want you to just talk about your wife and your kids and a little bit about them. Brag on your family.
Well, as in the coaching parlance, I like to say I outkicked my coverage with my wife, Jane. Well, come June 27th, I better start looking on for presents. We'll be married 41 years. So, yeah, I think we're going to stay around with each other. Jane and I met at PC, and she was our senior year. She was the captain of the cheerleaders, and I was the captain of the football team. I keep waiting for Hollywood to come do a movie on that, but it's not happening, I don't reckon. She's actually retired and is on a train right now, getting ready to roll into the airport in New York, leaving from Easton, Connecticut to go see my daughter Lauren out in LA, who's getting ready to run the MTV Movie Awards. But yeah, I've been blessed. You know, Lauren's my oldest child, and she's been the production manager of the ball drop and stuff like that. And big source of pride, and she does a lot of events now. She just worked the Country Music Awards in Nashville just a few weeks back. So really cool stuff. She's got a granddaughter named Ellie Bell that just as cute as a button, and I think Lauren is it's like the Truman Story. She's she's videoing that girl and taking pictures till the cows come home, but it's cool. And then, of course, you remember Jim. You coached Jim. It's my oldest son, Jim. Jim was quite a good player and a state champion wrestler, and he's got three grandchildren, or three children of his own, three grandchildren for Jane and I that they live up in Easton. He works for Sikorsky Helicopter. Does very well with them, and has been working on a project that's a multi-billion-dollar project that deals with the development of a search and rescue helicopter for the Air Force. And then Austin, I think you coached against Austin too.
I coached against all of them.
That's
right.
right.
Have those pictures with their face in a circle, like how are we going to stop these guys? Oh, I know all about it.
You know all about them. I couldn't remember. I have to go way back since I'm in the start of year 43. So sometimes I forget how long I've been doing this. But and Austin, he went to the Air Force Academy also, and and has done very well. Became a rugby player out there. Was captain of the Air Force rugby team for the United States Air Force at one time, the Sevens team. He started his own business, fly bodies, and is doing very well with that. Actually coached some with me, and then Jordan, you remember, my youngest, and I think you kind of had a soft spot for him, if I can say that a little bit. You talk about him with a lot of reverence. And Jordan's the one that's followed his old man's footsteps. He's doing the coaching thing. He worked with me some. Now he's the head football coach at Chadwick Academy out in Palos Verdes, California. They were conference champs this year, and he was conference coach of the year. So I'm really proud of him too. So I've been truly blessed with an incredible family. And I often tell the story. My mom and dad were really smart, were great athletes that it skipped a generation with me and went to my son. So I'd rather have it that way anyway. I was a plugger.
Oh, you sound like me, but I'm going to tell you what. Now, Jordan out there Does he run the fullback belly, Coach?
Well, it's weird. They're playing 8-man football. Now, he's got the numbers up so high now, they're talking about going to 11-man. Jane and I actually went out to L.A. He spoke at a Glacier clinic. That's the first time they had done 8-man football at one of their clinics out there, and he was one of the featured speakers. Awfully proud. So we hopped a plane, went out there and checked him out. Spent about 36 hours in L.A. and it was awfully rewarding to see him be recognized for his good teams. And yeah, he still slips that fullback up inside pretty well and runs that G scheme off tackle.
We're a dying breed, Coach. But hey, now I remember I was the head coach at Hendersonville when you first came to Polk County. Tell us just a little bit about how you ended up at Polk. Tell us a little bit about your career and where you've been.
Well, I could talk for days, but I won't. But yeah, I've been in this, like I said, profession 43 years now, and I'm a Scotland County High School graduate from Laurinburg, North Carolina. Family lived there forever. My mother still lives in Laurinburg. Mary Kay, she was a physical education teacher and coach at Laurinburg High, which eventually morphed into Scotland County High School, kind of like Polk Central and Tron at Polk County, and really had a lot to do with starting women's sports. Back when she was coaching, it was 6-man basketball and really nothing more than that. She started golf and track and got girls involved in other sports. Title IX was getting ready to roll around and change the landscape of women's sports. And Mom finished up her career as the admissions director at St. Andrews College right there. And she's living in Scotia Village now, which is just right off the outskirts of that. My dad, Jim, was an incredible high school and college player, played at Appalachian, was an all-state player there. And like I said, all of his skill level went to my boys. I was lucky enough to have him, though. And certainly I don't say push, but he gave me opportunity to be a football player, be an athlete, and did a lot of things well, was big with the JCs, worked with Connecticut Mutual, which became the Mass Mutual, and was involved with me until he passed away back in 2003. But think about him every day. I was going to say, you can see his high school and college jerseys hanging up above my right shoulder right there. But yeah, we've been blessed. I've matriculated at several different places as a coach. Presbyterian College has a long list of coaching trees in a lot of the South, particularly in South Carolina. My first job was at Lawrence High School as assistant. Won the state championship, had some incredible players. We played the last game in Williams-Brice that had turf. And we got Buddy Jennings, who is a great mentor of mine and is actually retired now, but actually became a superintendent over in the Spartanburg area. We presented him with a piece of turf with the logo on it and gave that to him as a memento from that. And then, as time went on, I had an opportunity to go to Lenoir-Rhyne College. John Perry, who was my offensive line coach, got that job, and that was invaluable experience for me. Hickory is a great college town, and the folks in Hickory now have got one of the best Division II programs in the country, and they're redoing their facilities. It's pretty amazing what they're accomplishing there. And my first head football job was at Butler High School in Augusta, Georgia, back in 1987. Started dating myself a little, and one of my great mentors, Joe Olliff, Olliff, was the principal. Jimmy Kaiser, who I worked with at Lenoir-Rhyne, that was his father-in-law. And I was actually going to come back to Laurinburg and go to work with my dad and sell insurance, make a lot of money. And Jimmy called me one day when he was in North Carolina State, and he said, "Hey, man, my father-in-law is looking for a job, a coach." And he said, "I've told him I need to hire you." So I went and interviewed and came back, told Jan, I said, "We're moving to Augusta." So the great thing was I got connected to the Masters while I was there and worked the Masters for 27 years. And Now I have 2 master's badges for the rest of my life, which is a pretty cool deal. And I met a lot of great people, and we still know a lot of folks down that way. Crescent High School came after that, and I was at Lee County in Sanford, and then the opportunity to take this job occurred at Polk. It was so weird. One of my coaches, Lamont Jones, who I coached Lenore Ryan, who's our basketball coach, a great friend. Lamont was at a high school in South Georgia, and he said, "Coach, we're looking for a coach down here. The guy just up and left. So you come down here and interview." He said, "Just come show up." It was kind of weird. I had a chance to take a job there, but I just felt moved by the good Lord, probably in this case, to come to Polk County. I'll never forget when I told Jane about the Polk County job. She says, "Polk County? Where is Polk County?" And we had driven through it and been by it before on the way to the mountains, but we would always take 25 and come out above it and never ride right by it on 26 there. Had 3 really good years at T.L. Hanna. Had an opportunity to go there, and I reckon I can tell you this: it's certainly they pay you awfully good there.
Well,
Yeah, when you get a 6-figure paycheck to coach high school football, you probably take advantage of it, and we did. It was a great experience for me. I learned a lot of football. Got to work with my good friend John Cann, who I played football with at Presbyterian. He was the AD, and John and I kind of teamed things up there. And I kind of became a CEO coach. I think you know me well enough. That wasn't my bag. And it's no reflection on the folks there. I had a strength coach, an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and I was also assistant athletic director, and loved my job, but I did not feel like I was making the same kind of difference I'd made in young men's lives as I had before. So had a chance to come back here, took advantage of it. Columbus, to me, is home. You know, my son's graduated from the high school, and when we came back here, one of the people, I'll never forget, told me, said, didn't say welcome back, coach, he said welcome home. And I said, "You're right, that's where I am."
Yeah, that's amazing. And you've talked about one of the questions I was going to ask you. You've already answered a lot of it. Some of the people that were influential on you. And,
right.
And I was here when you first came to Polk and watched what you did with that program. Now unless I'm mistaken, you're the winningest coach ever there. And Coach, we've been talking a lot about your past and your family, and we've talked about 3 of the best players ever at Polk, your kids. And what's FCA? And I know this, and I'm a Christian, and I work for a Christian organization. And
right.
Always, you can tell a tree by its fruit. Coach, you're bearing some great fruit. I've witnessed it firsthand. I've watched you practice. When you guys realized I wasn't spying, and I was actually there for a good reason. And Coach, but talk about your relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious if anybody hangs around you 15 minutes and watches you deal with kids and how you do things, they'll know right away you're a Christian. Talk about your relationship with Christ a little bit.
Well, BJ, what I'll tell you is I try to lead by example, and I'm not afraid to share my relationship or the fact that I'm a believer. I'm proud of it, and one of the things that I hope to do is be that guy that our players want to emulate. I don't normally ask young men to do anything I wouldn't do, to get in shape or to do anything that would be untoward, of course. And one of the things that I'm a big believer in is giving young men an opportunity to lead themselves. I think one of the issues we have with young people today is so many of them are followers. And I want them to lead too and not be afraid to stand up for what's right. That's one of my major focuses in life, is to attempt to be the guy that recognizes good in people and hopefully draws it out as a young coach, you know, if you looked at me sideways, I'd probably clean your locker out when I was 28 years old. Now that I'm 65, I look at things in a different perspective. I realize it's my goal as a coach to take young men and make them into grown men, and eventually they'll be productive members of society. And I tell them to be good students, good sons, good people. And if they're those things, BJ, you win your share of football games. They'll be easily led and taken down the right path. And I certainly feel like that I've been blessed to be put in this position that you talked about, that, you know, Billy Graham's saying, touching the number of people that you touch. Our exam this week is maxing in the weight room. The principal came down yesterday. I think he realized he hadn't observed me. Plus, he wanted to get out of the office. He said, "Coach, I'm coming down today." That was yesterday. And he said, yeah, let's. I said, "We're maxing on the bench." I said, "You know, remember 3 years ago, I took you down here and I had you do 225 for 5. I said, I'm going to challenge you again." Sure enough, he got out there and popped it out. And the kids got really fired up, and were one of our best days ever in the weight room. And this was not my football class. This was a group of athletes, and some of them guys that just want to learn about strength training. That really got after it. I hope I made a good grade on my observation. Maybe I did. But I think the world needs goodness, you know, particularly today. I think we've grown apart in so many different ways, and, you know, it seems like everybody's more worried about somebody's political affiliation than they are about the goodness that each one of us can have for each other, to be a brother, to be a brotherhood. And I'm working on our end to try to emulate people that I see doing good, so I can do good for others. I think service to others is something that's a Christian value, and that's my major focus as a coach. And like I said, if you're doing those things, you'll get some W's along the way too.
Oh, no doubt. And thank you so much for allowing me to come in. You're always so hospitable when I come in with FCA, and you've let me do some things with your team. And Coach, what? Tell us a little bit about how FCA has impacted you and your coaching over your.
Well, listen to this now. This is a weird one. My college roommate, Chuck Jordan. Chuck walked on at Presbyterian, became the captain and one of the better players there during that tenure, and called me up about a month or so ago. He said, "Bruce, you won't realize this." He said, "I've been out of coaching for a while," and he said, "I'm going to work for the FCA." I said, "Well, it sounds like BJ Lauder to me." And he took me to my first FCA camp when we were sophomores at Presbyterian. Wow. And we're roommates, and at Talese McRae, and I gave my life that weekend, you know, during the week, and made a commitment at an FCA camp. And I can remember being up there up there at the podium, and it was a life-changing experience for me. There's no doubt about that. And probably would have never been had it not been for Chuck Jordan, and, you know, a guy that's in my wedding, and and a guy that I talk to, you know, very consistently. We're still great friends, of course, and had a lot of ups and downs together, more ups and downs. And he was one of the more successful coaches in South Carolina high school football. And you guys remind me of each other. Y'all were very similar, and I think that's why I'm drawn to you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And Coach, wow, what a powerful story about up at Ray. And you never know what seed you're planting. And you've always been so cool when we come in and allow us to share devotions and things like that. Coach, so after a kid plays for you, 15, 20 years after they play for you, what would you hope they say about you?
Boy, I thought about that when I read it. Now, you know, they got a lot of things going around in the old gray matter. I think what I would like for young men to say about me, maybe number one, is I tried to get the best out of them. just as football players, but as students and as people, and as sons, and that hopefully they maybe would emulate some of my good attributes. Mine aren't all good. I'll be the first to tell you. But, none of us are perfect, but I hope that I would tell them that life will have its ups and downs. And matter of fact, it's kind of weird. We talked about that today about, man, I said, every day you're going to have a problem. I said, you can let it consume you, or you can try to figure out a way to get around it, over it, or under. And if you can't, you got to forget it and drive on. That's what old Chuck Jones used to call Fido. you got to press on. I tell people if somebody gives you a hammer, sometimes everything looks like a nail. And what you've got to do, you got to put that hammer down and learn how to accept people for what they are. It'd be a pretty dull world if we were all the same. And we're a lot different. You and I are huge rivals. I can remember one of the things that meant the most to me back in 2002, because I remember, I believe you may not remember telling me this, but you said, Coach, we came to watch y'all early in the season, and I'll use the saying I use, we couldn't play dead in the cowboy movie. Probably, I'm sure you're thinking that. You've already chalked up a W, and we're going to Hendersonville that last game of the season, and not for a couple of drop passes. That game was tit for tat. And I remember you telling me, say, Coach, that's the most improved football team I've seen. And that meant a lot to me, because I knew what kind of program that Hendersonville had. Because, Jeff Wilson told me, said, now, Coach, we've played Hendersonville 45 times, and this has been 22 years ago, of course. And he said, we've beaten them twice, never in Hendersonville. So, we finally were able to accomplish that. But that was a motivator to me, that you recognized what we were doing. And I tell people all the time, originally that wasn't a rivalry. A rivalry, it was not a rivalry is tit for tat. You win one year, I win, maybe a streak's 2 wins in a row. It became a rivalry. And, it's we've cranked that thing back up again, and we've had some good ball games with the Bearcats. And, they had a great team this past year. Old Jim Sosby is a good friend, and I'm pleased and proud of him of having his opportunity at Chris, and he'll do great.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. And I was going to ask you about great memory, and you just shared one, but I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up 03. That's probably my greatest coaching memory.
Oh.
We were both 10-0, Coach, that next year, and I had to come down to Polk County, and my wife was late to the game because the interstate was backed up. It was the biggest crowd.
It was crazy.
Security had to make a tunnel to our locker room at halftime. But what an amazing game. And one thing that I'll tell everybody watching this that I admire about Coach Ollis, and I can't say this about every coach I ever coached against, but whether you won or lost, won big or lost big, when we were playing you guys, you and your coaching staff were always the same. If you won, you were humble. If you lost, you weren't sour grapes. And, Coach,
right.
I always appreciated that, because you understood what I believe is we were competing with each other, not against each other.
Right, not against. And, and certainly playing against the Bearcats was a motivator, because it became a rivalry, and that was it was great for the communities. One of my favorite sayings is stay humble, be hungry. I mean, humbleness is another thing I think the world could use more of. I was fortunate enough, like you said, to have some sons who were pretty decent players and good wrestlers and things like that. And I always told them, I said, men, if you're good enough, other people do your talking for you. You don't have to thump your chest or tell people how good you are. When you walk in the room, if you're that guy, people will whisper it.
Oh yeah,
not you.
When we got off the bus down there in 03, my kids were like, which one's Ollis? Which one's Jim Ollis? I mean, you're right. And you stick out like a sore thumb if you do a great job.
Well, I know that, and you probably remember this too. My dad passed away the Wednesday before the Tuesday before that ball game, and we had the service during the week. And I think Jim was trying to win one for his granddaddy, and really tried to do too much early. We both had great teams.
Yes.
I was hoping if we'd have gotten that win over Murphy 2 weeks later, we'd have gotten a rematch in Hendersonville. I hate that didn't happen, but
I wish it would have, because I had to go to Albemarle.
Right.
You know, we'd have had a home game. So yeah, we were definitely pulling for you. You know, but
exactly.
But yeah, Coach, I'll tell you what. One last thing before I let you go, and I always want to get this because I want parents and kids to hear from great coaches that do it the right way. They're godly men. What advice would you give parents of young players, whether it be high school, middle school, youth league, and what's a nugget or two you want to tell some young athlete that's watching this?
Well, you know, I'm a multi-sport guy. Always have been. I've always professed it. I would tell players, parents, that to not have their kids specialize early. Give them an opportunity. If you'll look at all the pro athletes in all the sports, the three major sports, basketball, baseball, football, you go back and look, and there's a statistics well over 90% were three-sport athletes. Tom Brady's one of them. LeBron James was. I mean, two of the best, the better players we've ever seen in their respective sports. I'd also tell parents to love the children, give them opportunity, and then step out of the way. And don't try to live vicariously through your children to relive your sports memories. And that's hard to do sometimes, because I was there when my boys were playing college sports, and being a coach too, you want to have your say, but I was able to sit back and relax and enjoy watching them. And I think, that's something that all parents can work on. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. There's no doubt about that. But I think you have to love them. You have to care for them. You have to give them opportunity, and give them the chance to either succeed or fail on their own. One of the great things about sports, BJ, as far as I'm concerned, even maybe more than winning, is learning how to deal with failure. And I think we try to protect young people from that. And we don't need to. We need to, not that we need to inject that in their lives, but every Friday night, 50% of the teams all across America either win or lose.
That's right. Half of them.
It's half of them. Half of them are winning, half of them are losing. They said, they tell the old coach, said, we love you, coach, and we'll keep you, win or tie. But something I would tell athletes is never say the word if. Life, the word if is right in the middle of the word life. And I think if is the biggest word in the world, because we've all used it. What if I'd have worked harder? What if I'd have come to 7-on-7? What if I'd have studied more? What if I'd have been a better person? And we're all guilty. It's going to happen. We're all guilty of that, present company included. But I think that would be one of the things, because there's been so many young men who could have been college athletes or just college students that really didn't to realize their goals. And I think you need to have goals, and you need to have those goals right outside your grasp. I mean, it doesn't need to be something that's easily obtainable. Like I had a kid today who power cleaned over 100 pounds the first time in his life. Now, that doesn't seem like a big goal. Now, he's not one of our players, but he's a kid who just want to take weight training, learn how to lift weights. And we celebrated. I let him go ring the bell for the PR bell. So I think you celebrate moments, but at the same time, you're humble and you realize that you want to give yourself all the opportunities in the world. And if you're giving your best effort and you're being focused on the goal that you have, or the task you have a better opportunity to achieve it, no doubt.
Well, Coach, listen, we're out of time, and I really appreciate what a great conversation. I hope everybody watching this can take a few nuggets out of it. This man has won a lot of football games, and folks, he's done it the right way. He puts God first in everything he does, and I'm a witness to that with FCA. Coach, if you don't mind, I'd like to say a quick prayer over you and your family and your program, and then we will sign off and have a great evening. Hey, dear Lord, thank you so much for Coach Ollis coming on here. Dear Lord, thank you for what he does at Polk County High School, what he means to those kids, what he means to that community, God, that he does it the right way. I just pray a blessing over his family, over his coaching, and dear Lord, over those kids that he's impacting. In Jesus' name, amen. Coach, thanks so much for coming on, man.